being in the NBA first and getting to see that there was really informative in terms of just another way that you can coach, that you can build relationships with guys and kind of create trust and create opportunity, but also work as a teacher.
So we were talking to Alex Lloyd of Bowdoin College. Alex was named 8th coach in the history of Bowdoin men's basketball programs, 3rd in just the last 58 years. Is that correct?
That is correct.
Is that a big responsibility? Is it freeing, or is it a weight that you have to contend with?
I certainly think it's a privilege. I mean, the coaches that came before me, the community that was there before me is really special, and they're really well respected, and they've done a phenomenal job. So I'm excited to be there, and it's a great program to be in charge of now.
It feels very much Steelers, Mike Tomlin-esque. You know, I'm a big Steelers fan. There's been 3 coaches in 60 years or something like that. It feels like they choose them well and they support them, and you can distinguish yourself in a really unique way within the larger coliseum of sport that you're in. You know?
Yeah, I think so. I mean, what I'd say is Coach Gilbride, who came before me, he was there for 35 years. He did a phenomenal job, and I think that I'm in a great spot, and I'm trying to take it day by day. 35 years is a long way from now. So I'm just trying to do the best job we can now. And I'm surrounded by a great support staff and a great community. So.
I've talked to a few people looking back on their careers, and they talk about something similar to you. They had that moment where they thought, there's no way I'll make it 10, 20, 30. And they look back and think, man, 50 years has gone by fast, right? So it's interesting what time does. I'm fascinated by time and space, and the fact that post-COVID, I think we're going to have entire fields of study about what's the distortion of time and space and what's happened since it. Did you have any problems with time and space during COVID in terms of adjusting to your season, your truncated season?
Yeah, so I came in right on the tail end of COVID, and so it was impacted a little bit less, but I'd say the biggest challenge I had was my first year. I got COVID in January, and
mid-season.
Then our assistant coach got it, and so we got to coach practice virtually.
Oh, you're kidding? Really? Virtually?
Yeah, it was a long experience, but in terms of time, but it was pretty neat. Like, our guys, we would send out a practice plan. We'd meet over Zoom with our captains. We weren't like in a box coaching, like on the table, but like we'd go through the practice plan with them, talk to them about which captain was going to run which drill, how they'd run it. And it was pretty cool to watch our guys go out and run practice, and then come back. We'd be able to watch the film remotely, and then like get on a Zoom and meet with them and talk about what we were seeing and how things were going.
Were your captains predominantly point guards, shooting guards, twos, threes?
No. So we had a forward, and then a small forward, and that was kind of our captain role. We had one captain that, because of COVID, graduated in December, so he missed that.
Oh, wow.
That opportunity.
I imagine that probably does something. It either one of two things. It either really splinters a team and that leadership, or it strengthens it. It congeals it in some way. What happened with you guys?
Yeah, for us, I think one of the things that I'm really fortunate about at Bowdoin is our guys are really tight-knit. They're together. They love being together. They love talking about, not just their passion for basketball, but also their interests on the court. Mm-hmm. And I thought what was really cool is, I don't know how much it strengthened it, but I felt like it continued to help pull guys out of their shell in my first year, which was really fun to watch them just kind of have their voices grow.
That's great. You were named 2005 Southern California Intercollegiate Athletic Conference Player of the Year. That's pretty significant.
At the time, it was a long time ago, but I mean, I was very fortunate. I went to Pomona College. Yeah. I played for an excellent coach, and Coach Katsiafikis at Pomona. And I think it's a great tribute to the fact that, when you're part of a good program, that you tend to get recognized for success that the whole team has.
That's a very, it's not surprising you would say that in that way. You got your master's degree from Smith College in 2008?
I did.
Did that affect or inform your decision to coach at Bowdoin? Actually, before I ask you that, what's up with this Bowdoin tree of coaching? Because it feels like there's 1,000 guys here that coach at some point were assistants, something else at Bowdoin. Like, what's that about?
I think that the people that go through there get an opportunity to do a lot of things. We're really fortunate to have like a great assistant coaching program. Our assistant coaches are well supported, I think, both by the administration, and we've had a full-time assistant coach position. And
Is that a abnormal or atypical thing for D3 schools?
I would say it's inconsistent. I don't know whether it's abnormal or not, but some schools do, some schools don't. And then I think it's a tribute to Coach Gilbride in that he hired really great coaches that went out and did a great job recruiting and had some success and were able to go on and find new roles.
Why did you choose Bowdoin over all the places you could have chosen?
I don't know that you get to always choose everything in terms of coaching, but for me, it came down to I really had clarity that I wanted to be at a high academic D3.
Yeah.
I wanted to be part of a community that was close-knit. Having grown up and left New England and gone to a college out in California, I wanted to go to a school that also valued diversity. And I felt like Bowdoin really checked off a lot of those boxes. And then for me, as you talk about COVID, like I had the opportunity remotely to learn about it because the search process was largely remote. And so as I went through it, I really found, all of those things to be true. I knew that we were in a great conference. And then I started to talk to the people at the school over Zoom and just be so impressed with their investment in the community, their investment in students and each other. And then lastly, I thought that at that time, the school was just doing phenomenal work in terms of really examining what diversity looked like on a Division III campus and how to continue to grow it and make people feel included.
So you were very intentional, well considered about where you went. You've coached and been a part of the Grizzlies organization for since 2018.
Yeah, I was there for 3 seasons.
And so you did a few different things. You coached Summer League, Vegas, and
yep. So I was assistant coach for their G League team for 3 years. I got to be an assistant on the Summer League team and help out with draft workouts. And the Grizzlies were a great organization and very good to me. And got to work with a lot of good friends that I'd also started working with back when I was in San Antonio as well.
San Antonio, arguably the best, if not one of the best all-time organizations. Were you able to interact with Pop at all in terms of coaching or understand what that tree is all about, his coaching tree?
Yeah, I was able to interact with him some. I spent 2 years in San Antonio and then 3 years in Austin. And, Pop's phenomenal. I think his ability to form relationships and make connections with people is really incredible. But for me, the biggest impact was also that the people that he had brought in were great mentors to me, that I got to work with Chip England. I got to work with James Borrego very closely. And then I got hired in Austin and spent a year under Quinn Snyder and then 2 years with Brad Jones and Taylor Jenkins. That's
a very impressive list of guys you just mentioned.
It was awesome. I mean, it's, as much as anything in basketball, I think it's about having an opportunity to work with the right people. And I've been very fortunate to be a part of great organizations with great people.
Is it fortune or is it hard work? Is it just dumb luck? Is it design? Is it, a series of events, choices that you've made over your life that led you to these things? Is it all the above? Another thing? What is it?
I think that it's a blend. It's certainly a large element of luck, I think, goes into every career. But it's also intentionality in terms of knowing, what I want in terms of I want to be around good people. I want opportunities to learn. I want opportunities to work in places that think about things that are bigger than just themselves. And, so those things kind of guided me. But, the reality is by the time you get to the last 2 or 3 people that somebody's hiring, they can almost always make a good choice with any one of those 3. And I've been very fortunate that they've picked me and tried to do well and serve them well.
If anyone's keeping score at home, this is the second time you've been very deferential and humble about your props, your self props. It's funny. You've helped people play all over the world. Actually, before I ask that, let me ask a little bit about Pop's famous dinners. Have you ever been a part of Pop's famous dinners where he opens bottles of wine and sometimes orders for everyone and has a command over how he seats people and the whole experience?
I've been to only a couple of them, but yes, I've been to a couple.
So you talk about surrounding yourself with excellence or great people, being an organizing principle for how you move through the world. Yeah. Does that stop with the people that you work with, or does it continue on into families and student athletes that you bring into your program?
I think it continues on. I mean, I think ultimately what we want in our lives and in our communities is to be surrounded by people that are invested in making those environments and those communities the best that they can be. And, for me, one of the things that was a great fit about Bowdoin is that I I'm not building that culture there. I'm hoping to continue it and enhance it, but that's a part of the campus community already. Is
Number three time that you were deferential to the excellence that you surround yourself with. Go ahead.
I mean, the excellence isn't about me. That's the great part about a community, right? Like it's not about me. And so one of the things that I think really makes Bowdoin stand out is that, if you talk to alums, you talk to recruits, you talk to students on campus about why they chose the school, it's that when they were there, it felt like a place that was really friendly, really welcoming, a place where people took an interest in, what you like to do. And, I think that that's a two-way street, that those people also have an expectation that when you're having a conversation that you're going to be interested in what they like and what makes them tick.
So you work with the Hawks, you work with the Spurs organization and the Grizzlies. Does your experience and background in pro sports help you where you are now in any direct ways? Help with recruiting, help with organization, or is it so different because it's pros versus college?
I think it's been a large help. I'd start with, I think, being able to step away from college for a while and spend time in the NBA and the G League, where so much of coaching is overtly relational. That has been a huge help in terms of, just seeing how different coaches model empowering players, building relationships, building trust with different guys. And that in the college setting, it's largely relational in places, but also like you look at Power 5 basketball in places all over,
Yeah.
that the coach is in charge, and that I think that that's evolving and has evolved certainly over my lifetime.
Yeah.
But it was not being in the NBA first and getting to see that there was really informative in terms of just another way that you can coach, that you can build relationships with guys and kind of create trust and create opportunity, but also work as a teacher.
College is more of a players. I mean, pros more of a players league. College more of a coaches league, or coaches environment.
I think that there's some truth to that.
Do you know when you first fell in love with the idea of coaching? Do you remember that date or that time?
I would say my sophomore year in college, I was working a camp at Santa Clara, Coach Dickey's camp, and it was a pretty cool setup. So you came in, and the first day, all the coaches that were working it sat up in the bleachers, and the student managers ran just an open run, and you watched
Really?
everybody, and then they talked to the campers and they sent them to bed, and then we stayed up late and did a draft, and you got to draft your team.
So you're assessing talent, etc. You're building a team in that first run, and then having a draft that night.
Yep.
That's great.
And that experience, you draft your team, and then you're kind of with them. So you're doing stations with them, you're practicing with them, and then coaching them in games and refereeing games for other teams. And, I was around a great group of young guys and had a ton of fun coaching them. And they were so invested that, that was where it really started to click, that like, this could be really fun to, get to create a group and really work with them and get to know them.
In 2000, was it 14 through 18, you were at Texas A&M and you were elevated to director of scouting and player development.
Mm-hmm.
Is that where you fell in love with the idea of scouting and player development, that first run? Can you draw a direct line from there to there, from here to there, or there to there?
I think that for me, the player development piece really started in San Antonio. When I came in, I was working on video for the front office and helping Chip England and Brett Brown and then Chad Forcier on the court with player development, and just watching like the level of detail that they taught things with, and how like much energy and juice that those workouts had, that was really impactful for me.
Yeah.
And then I went to the G League with Coach Snyder, and like his level of detail and teaching and willingness to just spend time and go through, hours of film with me and talk about details. it was really like my opportunity to kind of go to graduate school for basketball. And I learned a ton there. But that was a huge point for me in really understanding, talking about teaching and development from that lens.
So you have at least 3 advanced degrees, one from Smith College, the other 2, in School of Hard Knocks and being out there in the world. Yeah.
Absolutely.
So when you were building a team, what do you look for? Are you looking for in your perfect player? You're looking for somebody who can create off the dribble, someone who can fit within your system, someone who could open up and improvise. Like, what are you looking for in a perfect, like, parent or student athlete wanting to join you? What should they be developing?
Yeah. I'd start by saying, I think that this is the question that every coach has to answer in front of a camp, and that it's a little bit subjective, but you obviously have the sliding scale of athleticism and skill, and the less athletic you are, the more skilled you have to be.
Yeah.
So setting aside the fact that all of us want to coach a 6'8" wing that can play in the post, handle and pick and roll, and shoot 40% from 3.
Much like I was in high school and in college and
I
pickup
can
games.
see that about you, man.
Yeah, even though I'm 6'3" and a half, I felt like I had a 6'8" game like that. Prototypical.
Point forward.
Point forward, exactly. Before, I would say, actually, a lot of my friends would joke that I would just rain 35-footers down. I'd tell them I was ahead of Steph Curry in terms of how deep I like to shoot logo threes. But anyway, go ahead.
I love it.
Yeah.
So, setting that aside, some of the intangibles, I really want to get people that are invested in being a part of something that's bigger than themselves. I want to get guys who can think and play. Ideally have a little bit of a creative piece to their game where, if you give them some options, that they think that it's fun to like make a read and make a decision and not do the same thing every time.
Are you running plays throughout the game, or is it more improvisational jazz? Like, what's the balance here?
So we run a motion, and typically, like, the first part of the motion will have an entry action where our guys are pretty structured. And then after that, they're playing and they're finding the next action and finding space. And I love that, like being able to see them play, use their creativity, interact with each other. And then, I think that it's my job as the game goes over the course of the game or time and score, then to slow it down, call a set, give more direction in those instances, just to make sure that the team feels like it's stable and on the right path for the course of the game.
Are you a high touch coach, or do you like to stand back and let them more than not learn, grow off of successes and failures?
I would say, I think that in practice, we are more high touch, where we're talking, we're teaching much more. And then in games that you hope that you've prepared your team, that you can give them a little bit more space to go out there and execute.
So do you build that from the point guard? Do you build that from interior, or your 5 spot? Like, how do you build a team?
I think that those attributes I talked about, that you're really hoping to find those in everybody. Obviously, I think that starting with the point guard's phenomenal, but one of the great opportunities in Division III is you come to an event like this, you go to a AAU tournament.
This being the all academic basketball
Absolutely.
in Seal Beach. Yep.
And like, you don't know who the best player is going to be. You don't know who the best student that can come to Bowdoin College is going to be. And so that could be a 6'8" center who happens to be great and he can think and play and pass and he's a ton of fun to work with. Or it could be a really great shooter, or it could be a point guard.
So you're not recruiting for position, you're recruiting for
I think you're trying to find you're trying to find the best fit and the best player that you can. And then, my job as a coach is to get the best talent that I can and make the system work around that.
What's your journey? Where are you? Are you at Bowdoin for the next 30 years, or are you there for 5 then back to the pros? Are you opening up a organic coffee shop in Jackson Hole, Wyoming? What are you doing?
Yeah, I hope I'm here for a long time. This has been, I'm a little unique in that even starting in the NBA, the reason that I left the Spurs and went to Smith to get a master's was...
Wait. You left the Spurs to go get a master's?
I did.
Why?
So I had pretty good clarity when I graduated that I'd had a phenomenal experience and that I wanted to be a Division III head coach in the high academic space. And you asked about like the deliberateness of choosing jobs, and like that's why I laughed a little bit. Like, I've wanted to be at a place like Bowdoin for years. And
did you pursue the job, or did they pursue you, or
I pursued the job?
Wow. Were you aggressive in pursuing it? Were you laid back? Like, did you just let them know, hey, here's my float, I'm floating this out there? Or were you telling them, emailing them day in and day out, 2 a.m?
Not day in and day out, but I definitely applied and reached out to a couple people that I knew that were around the job and let them know that I was interested.
When the coach was like, what's the transition? When did you know that you wanted to pursue that job? There's a coach there. Do you think he's retiring or like?
So I saw that he had retired.
Yeah.
And that was when like I got my materials ready. And like,
So there was an opening and you scrambled to get your materials ready and started reaching out.
Yeah.
When you get the first, was it an email, phone call, first email?
First email.
Were you excited?
Very excited.
Were you nervous as well?
I think, yeah. I mean, I think that's natural to be nervous about things that you want.
Yeah.
And so, yeah, I was a little nervous, but mostly excited to have an opportunity to get to know Bowdoin more and for them to get to know me a little bit more.
Had you ever been to campus?
I had been to campus. No, actually, I had not been to that school in the NESCAC before.
So then how does it go from the first email you get back showing interest to when you're shaking hands or signing a contract? What are the steps?
The interview process.
Yeah.
I had a really great first phone call.
How long was the phone call? 10 minutes, 20 minutes, 30 hours?
Probably around 45 minutes.
Okay.
With the athletic director, Tim Ryan. And then it went from there to a little bit more of a formal interview to a Zoom process to another Zoom process.
So we're 4 in at this point, if anyone's counting at home.
And then, after that, it all blurs together a little bit.
Right.
But I was really excited to be offered the job and happy to get there.
When you're in the third and fourth and all the other blurred parts of the process, is your excitement and hope growing, or are you more settled and feeling comfortable with the outcome no matter what it was?
I think your excitement and your hope grow at that point.
Yeah, that's great. So when you finally got the job, what did you do? Go out and celebrate? Just get focused? Didn't even celebrate like Kobe Bryant when he was drafted. He just gets back into the gym, or did you go out and just rip roar and have a great time? What'd you do?
We were still at the tail end of COVID, so there was no place to go out.
Yeah.
But we ordered a nice dinner in. We being my wife and at that point infant daughter, and so we ordered a nice dinner in and celebrated at the house, and then started talking about what the move process would look like, and the things that I needed to wrap up for the Grizzlies and getting organized to get going with Bowdoin.
Did you confirm or deny you changed your daughter's name to Bowdoin?
Deny.
Okay, well,
Her name is Nalia.
I have to ask. It's out there on the streets, but it's good to get confirmation that you did not. Your time with the Grizzlies, did you ever run into Ja? Did you ever run into, talk to me about some of the folks you interacted with there?
Yeah, so a lot of the time was with the hustle and guys that people would know there. DeAnthony Melton was there. Bruno Caboclo was there. John Conchar was there.
What were you doing with the Grizzlies during that time?
So at that point, I was an assistant coach for the Memphis Hustle, which is their G League team.
Yeah.
But what's cool about the Grizzlies setup is that the Hustle practice in the Grizzlies practice facility. So
same place.
So same place, same court. We, they're on first or whenever kind of fits best with their schedule, and then we kind of fill in around that. And so, we got to be around a lot to see, Jaren Jackson, Dylan Brooks, Ja, all these guys come in, do their workouts, talk to them, see what the process is that they're going through. And then at the time, JB Bickerstaff was there my first year, then Coach Jenkins, and just to be around those guys and see their process and what they were doing was a phenomenal experience.
Do you find that your bona fides in the pros helps you recruit like expressly, or is it more of a nuanced thing?
I think it's mixed. I think what resonates with every recruit is a little bit different. I don't think that it ever really hurts,
Sure.
But I certainly think there are some recruits that are really interested in that and excited about that. And I think there are some that, like, that's nice. And like, tell me more about what the government department looks like.
When you're talking to families, what do you tell a parent or a mom and a dad when they're asking why their son should go play for you?
It's a good question. I actually have never been asked that directly by a parent.
Is that right?
Yeah. So, what I would say is,
well, being a parent of an 11-year-old who has aspirations to play in college, why should my son come play with you?
Yeah.
If he's offered the opportunity?
Yeah. What I'd say is that, first and foremost, that I think coaching is teaching, and I'm going to try to help your son have every opportunity to develop and grow. While I'm incredibly competitive and want us to win championships, I'm also really aware of where I coach, and that the purpose of coming to Bowdoin is to do things that are bigger than basketball, and that I'm going to be incredibly supportive and work with your son to make sure that all of his endeavors in the classroom and on the academic side, that he understands that that's really priority one, and that basketball's 1B.
Bigger than basketball, meaning life, post-basketball, post-college, those kind of things?
Absolutely.
Yeah. What's the one thing, and this would be my last question, I think, that you would tell a potential student athlete who's playing out there right now and the AAB, they're practicing, shooting out here on the 20 courts that are here or whatever in Seal Beach? What do you tell them?
I think the one thing that I tell them that's different than a lot of coaches is that it's about finding the right fit. Ultimately, I hope for a lot of the players that we recruit that that's Bowdoin, but that you have to go see schools, see them when students are there, talk to students, talk to coaches, and look around and think about how you fit at that school and in that community, and that those experiences really start to give you a lot of clarity about what's the right place. And then, for us, if we're recruiting you, I really hope that that place is Bowdoin. But if you can do that and figure out what the right fit is, wherever you go, that you're going to be really excited about it, and knowing that you're going to be excited about a place and excited about the community outside of just the athletic experience, I think is really important for anybody to be successful as a student athlete.
Alex Lloyd, head coach Bowdoin. Or is it Bowdoin or Bowdoin or Boyne? How many times have you had to, this would be my last question, how many times have you had to educate someone on how to pronounce the name?
It's Bowdoin College, and, it's been a few times, but usually I just let it slide.
Yep. Yeah. I think I've maybe mispronounced it at least 4 times. I've tried to a couple times, probably not a couple more times. Maybe that's the way to get into the colleges. You have to be able to pronounce it properly. That's
it's like a secret handshake.
Secret.
Don't tell admissions.
Very well. Very well. Thank you very much, Alex Lloyd. Wish you the best. Thanks for joining us.
Thank you very much.